who's actually going to get the most out of this HP OmniDesk gaming PC, and who should walk away before spending a weekend's paycheck. Is the price justified for someone who just wants to dip their toes into modern titles? Or does it only make sense for the more serious gamer, who also wants a machine that can handle AI-boosted workloads? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When you're staring at a spec sheet, the numbers can feel like a blur. Ryzen 7, DDR5, RTX 3050. The real question is what that looks like when you fire up Elden Ring after a long day of Zoom calls, or when you need to run a Photoshop-heavy workflow alongside a 1080p stream. I've spent the past few weeks comparing a handful of pre-built gaming desktops in the same price bracket, and the HP OmniDesk landed in the middle of the pack, but with a few quirks that make it stand out for certain buyers. Let's start with the core, the AMD Ryzen 7 processor. 16 threads and a boost clock that can touch 5.1 GHz sound impressive, and in practice they translate to smooth frame rates in most AAA titles at 1080p high settings. In my own test runs, Fortnite stayed consistently above 120 frames per second, and Cyberpunk 2077 hovered around 55 frames per second with ray tracing turned off, which is respectable for a system that doesn't break the bank. If you're a competitive gamer who relies on high refresh rates, the CPU gives you the headroom you need for quick respawns and low input lag. However, if you're aiming for 1440p ultra settings or want to max out ray tracing, the RTX 3050 will start to feel like a bottleneck, and you'll notice dips in frame rate during crowded scenes. Memory and storage are where the next-gen claim gets a little more concrete. The machine ships with 16 GB of DDR5 RAM, which is already double what many older builds offered. DDR5's higher bandwidth means you'll see faster texture loads in open-world games, and it also helps when you're multitasking, say, gaming while a background render is chewing through RAM. The 512 GB SSD is speedy, but it fills up quickly if you install a full library of modern games. I found myself offloading a few older titles to an external HDD after a week of heavy use. If you're comfortable managing storage, or you plan to add a secondary drive later, the SSD is fine. For anyone who expects a massive game library out of the box, you'll need to budget for extra storage sooner rather than later. The graphics card, an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3050, is the workhorse for gaming and the AI acceleration bits that HP mentions. In real-world terms, it handles most current titles at 1080p with high settings without breaking a sweat. The card also supports DLSS, which can boost performance in supported games, something I took advantage of in Control, where DLSS 2.0 pushed the frame rate from a shaky 45 frames per second up to a solid 70 frames per second while preserving visual fidelity. That said, the RTX 3050 isn't a future-proof solution. As games start to lean more heavily on ray tracing and higher texture resolutions, you'll start hitting the ceiling sooner than you would with a RTX 3060 or higher. If you're planning on playing the next generation of titles for the next 3 to 4 years, consider whether you're comfortable upgrading the GPU later. Connectivity is another area where the OmniDesk shows practical value. Wi-Fi 6 ensures a stable wireless connection for online gaming, and the inclusion of both HDMI and DisplayPort lets you run a dual monitor setup straight out of the box. I set up a 24-inch 144Hz monitor for gaming and a 27-inch 4K monitor for work, and swapping between them was seamless. The ports are placed on the back panel in a tidy arrangement, which helps keep cables organized, something that's easy to overlook, but makes a big difference if you're building a clean desk space. Now, who should actually buy this machine? First, the serious casual gamer, someone who plays competitively at 1080p, enjoys newer releases, but isn't chasing the absolute highest settings. The combination of a strong CPU, DDR5 RAM, and a capable mid-range GPU provides a balanced experience without forcing you to upgrade components every year. Second, Content creators who need a solid workstation for video editing or AI-assisted tasks will appreciate the CPU's multithreading and the DDR5 speed, especially when paired with software that can leverage those cores. The RTX 3050's AI cores can accelerate certain workflows, like AI upscaling in video tools, giving a modest but noticeable boost. Who should skip it? If you're a hardcore 1440p or 4K gamer who wants ultra settings and ray tracing at high frame rates, this desktop will likely leave you wanting more GPU power. Likewise, if you're a user who expects a massive internal storage pool right away, the 1/2 TB SSD will feel cramped, and upgrading the drive isn't as straightforward as swapping a laptop SSD. It involves opening the case, which some pre-built owners find intimidating. Finally, budget-focused buyers who are comfortable building a PC themselves might find better value by piecing together components, especially if they already own peripherals like monitors and keyboards.